Imagine waking up one day and realizing you never have to work again. No alarm clock, no stressful commute, no meetings, just the freedom to spend your time however you want. But there is one question that stands between most people and that reality. How much money do you actually need to retire in America? The advice is contradictory. Some people believe $500,000 is enough. Others insist you will need millions to survive. Retirement isn't about reaching a magic number. Treating it like a flat entry fee that applies to everyone is a mathematical error. It is an ongoing equation. Achieving personal freedom requires understanding the specific financial variables working against your wealth and building a strategy to outlast them. A few decades ago, the retirement landscape looked very different. Many workers had guaranteed company pensions to fund their later years. During that same era, basic costs like housing were significantly more affordable. A typical suburban home could be purchased on a single average salary, and if you got sick, healthcare and medical treatments were only a small fraction of what they cost today. Today, the math has changed. People are living longer than ever before. Many retirees will spend 20 to 30 years without a paycheck, which means your savings must stretch over a much longer duration. At the same time, you are fighting inflation. The rising prices of food, housing, and everyday expenses silently eat away at your purchasing power year after year. Because time and inflation compound over decades, sitting on a static pile of cash is a losing game. Your money has to be actively managed to outpace those specific headwinds. To build a strategy that works, you have to look at your own habits. Your target retirement number is dictated by your personal spending, not your career income. Think about someone living in a small town. If they have a fully paid-off home, their monthly expenses are going to be very low. Contrast that with someone who wants to spend their retirement traveling the world or living in an expensive metropolitan city. Their financial requirement will be significantly higher. These wide differences in lifestyle are exactly why copying a neighbor's target or comparing your portfolio to a coworker's is a dangerous mistake. The real question is, how much money will you spend every year in retirement? Once you define your specific annual spending input, you finally have the data required to apply the actual mathematics of total freedom. One of the most popular concepts used to calculate this target is called the 4% rule. By withdrawing exactly 4% of your invested portfolio each year, your money can last through decades of retirement. In practice, a $500,000 portfolio generates $20,000 per year. A $1 million portfolio doubles to $40,000. $2 million generates $80,000, and $3 million yields $120,000 annually. However, this rule is not an ironclad guarantee, but it provides a useful framework to estimate required savings based on your expected spending. Knowing the formula is only the first step. The next challenge is accurately predicting what your true lifestyle costs will be and identifying the common financial mistakes that can disrupt these calculations. When most of us try to picture exactly how much money we need to stop working, it feels less like planning and more like staring up at a hostile, insurmountable peak. Trying to calculate that exact mountain of cash generates a very specific kind of financial anxiety. But that anxiety usually comes from trying to hit a target that doesn't actually exist. In reality, the idea of a single, universal dollar amount shared by every retiree is a myth. To find your actual target, we have to use a mathematical baseline called the 4% rule. It's a formula used to determine how much you can safely withdraw from your investments each year without exhausting the principal. This chart translates annual spending into a required investment pool. $40,000 to $50,000 a year requires roughly $1 to $1.25 million invested. $70,000 to $90,000 scales to roughly $1.75 to $2.25 million. A luxury $150,000 crosses the $3 million mark. Calculating this specific lifestyle cost is the essential first step. It transforms an abstract fear into a highly targeted mathematical benchmark. You are no longer aiming at a mountain. You are aiming at your specific number. You might look at those million-dollar benchmarks and assume you need a massive salary to reach them. However, high income is not the primary requirement for building that pool. When it comes to accumulating wealth or leading a large paycheck later in life, consider a scenario comparing two different investors. The first starts putting money away at age 25. The second waits until they are 40 to begin. This graph shows their total wealth at age 65. The investor who started at 25 ends up with significantly more wealth, even if the late starter invests more money out of pocket every single month. The mechanism driving this is compound growth. Your money earns a return, then those financial returns dynamically generate their own returns. Over decades, this creates an exponential curve that does the heavy lifting for you. Leveraging decades of that compound growth is the primary engine of wealth creation. Because of that math, taking action today is mathematically more valuable than banking on higher earnings in the future. But an engine only runs well if there's no friction. Several economic and behavioral forces actively degrade the power of compounding if left unchecked. The primary external threat here is inflation. It acts as a silent tax, steadily eroding the future purchasing power of the funds you've diligently saved. On the internal side, carrying debt into retirement is a common mistake. High-interest obligations effectively neutralize your investment gains by draining cash right back out of your accounts. Then there is lifestyle creep, the tendency to increase personal spending to match every raise or promotion. This prevents the compounding engine from ever truly accelerating. There is also the mathematical risk of assuming government benefits alone will cover your lifestyle costs. Relying entirely on fixed external payouts introduces a severe vulnerability to your long-term plan. Failing to mitigate these specific friction points will inevitably delay your target retirement timeline by years, regardless of how well your investment engine performs. For the majority of Americans, a total investment pool between $1 and $2 million represents the exact mathematical sweet spot for a sustainable retirement. This final target fluctuates based on your personal spending habits and specific plans for the future. The true utility of these funds lies in the options they provide for your daily life, moving the focus away from mere accumulation of wealth. Retirement represents the calculated, permanent purchase of your own time. It is the financial mechanism that secures your personal freedom. Executing this personal mathematical equation starting today is the absolute best way to guarantee future options. Subscribe for more insights on how to map your own path to freedom.